what happened last time. I forgot to do that. May I join you without tipping over your beverage?
We'll see.
I don't know what got into me. That was kind of a sucker punch to your drink there.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing.
You're just punching my drink.
I'm like, let me do that for you. I didn't know what that was about. Well, give it just one quick second to get a few people in the feed here. But as we do that, I'd like to welcome all you to One-on-One Live with Coach Blue and Athletic Director Marissa.
Hello.
2-on-2.
Yeah.
Should we rename this podcast?
Yeah.
This episode? Yeah, probably should. This is your weekly call-in show, text-in show, direct message show, whatever forms of communication we want to get you in. We'd love to have you guys come on and maybe answer some questions you might have, give some feedback, some thoughts, some insights, anything about addiction, mental health, athletics, what trending topics, whatever's on your mind, I guess, really, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
So last week we missed our one-on-one live with Coach Blue because we were out of our minds with busy schedules trying to prepare for a trip, getting things ready for the presentation that we just did this morning with the, what was that, a CEU kind of professionals presentation.
Mental health professionals.
Yeah, it went really well. And I'm
really
excited to share this with you. We recorded it, so we'll release that maybe on a podcasting day too. It's a whopping 2 hours long.
Yeah, I don't know if people want to listen for
Might
2
be like,
hours.
I can't handle that guy for that long.
It is good though.
Yeah, it was a situation where I got to talk more about the therapeutic components to addict athlete rather than just the team. And I think sometimes we forget that this is a therapeutic intervention when it comes to what team addict athletes' core function is.
Yeah.
We're a support group and we use our erase and replace philosophy to help people overcome addictions, but it goes deep into mental health issues and esteem issues and all kinds of stuff that really I think we don't talk about as much as we should.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But no, it's been good. We had a quick little vacation that we took the family on that would probably be good to talk a little bit about. That was quite an experience. The first time the Robinson Crusoe actually got on a ship.
Yeah, we decided to go for a cruise. Everyone says they're amazing and they look amazing. You see pictures, and ours was more of a series of unfortunate events.
It was a series of unfortunate, it's funny when you kind of broke it down when we were finally out of the restraints of the airport coming home. We kind of analyzed some of the shenanigans that went down, but let me briefly run down on maybe some of that. You say that it's kind of funny. Traveling with 6 people in a family system is challenging in and of itself.
Yeah.
Thank heavens our kids are old enough now to kind of do their own thing.
Yeah,
and
pretty
be
good.
semi-aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we flew for the first time. We flew the whole family down to Southern California, LAX, to hit this Carnival cruise.
Yep.
First off, I didn't realize that Carnival cruise is also known as AKA the booze cruise.
Well, and in my research, which should have happened a little more before, it sounds like that one weekend and that exact cruise is more of the booze cruise.
Well, it was a quick one. It was a 3-day excursion to Ensenada, Mexico. But you know what, though? I'll be honest with you. You compare the Carnival cruise to the time we spent at Disney World.
Yeah.
Carnival cruise seemed a lot more put together, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like to be 100% honest with you, I didn't notice a lot of the alcohol. I mean, I did. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like people wearing shirts and stuff. I don't know. It was weird. I won't get into that. But no, it first started off with us flying down there. We had a quick day to spend in Long Beach, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Got there a little early. We left at the butt crack of dawn. Kids' first time, except for Brooklyn, our oldest, on the plane.
First time flying. So that was incredible.
That was fun to watch. And then the shenanigans began, right? I mean, the first day was great. We had a great time exploring some of Long Beach, but then we go to get on the cruise and read the fine print, people. Right?
Yeah.
This is funny. It's funny how fast your head can be taken out of the game, because the first episode was trying to return the rental car, which was kind of a funny thing, right? We had a whole day that we needed to have. So we had a rental car, and instead of driving all the way back to LAX to get back to the port in time, we decided to switch it for, and everything, like you said, everything was like $100 for this, $100 for that.
Yeah.
$100 to change the car drop off from LAX to
Thought it'd be
the
easier
Long Beach
to not,
experience.
yeah, fight the LA traffic.
Yeah. And one thing led to another. That was a nightmare in the hustle. We finally get in line to go through this. And lo and behold, apparently, you can't just have a driver's license state issued from the state that you're from. You also have to have a birth certificate, which
they had said no, you didn't need a passport. I have one. So I was like, okay. But government ID, we have those, figured that was enough. Birth certificates, the boys, birth certificates, because they don't have government IDs. They don't have their driver's license. And
Savannah, our daughter, 16 or 17 almost. What?
Yeah,
17, she has a driver's license.
Nope.
Daughter Brooklyn, 19, driver's license. But apparently you need your birth certificate. Now, somehow I got through without having a birth certificate. The boys had theirs. I think he just let me go, which we found out later wasn't the best of ideas. And we'll get to that in a second. But we get through, but the girls get held up. So here we are in Long Beach. The ship is getting loaded.
Yeah.
And
we chose the last hour or half hour that they let you get checked in so that we could have more time in LA, right?
Yeah.
And then that ended up becoming more of a problem because that put our timetable of getting birth certificates.
And it's funny how fast people that should help turn into like the meanest, witchiest people.
Oh my gosh, they were awful.
Like I call it stupid or liar. Like, because here I am sitting through there without that. And obviously I didn't say anything, but I'm like, how big of a deal really is this? And then so we had have Savannah's boyfriend race down from South Salt Lake.
He was already in Salt Lake, but he'd been watching our dog, and we thought, okay, do we know where the birth certificates are? Okay, he could pilfer through our whole house as he's like racing from Salt Lake, and we only have like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And then we're like, hey, if we don't make it, can we get a refund? They're like, no, you can't get a refund, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, guys, this doesn't seem right. Like, it's funny how fast people go from like being helpful and like cordial to where there's a problem, and then they lose their mind. So when they start losing their minds, of course, we're going to start losing our minds.
Yeah.
Long story short, thank heavens her boyfriend finds the two girls' birth certificates.
That took a minute.
But the thing that sucked though is that they put you guys through such hell that our oldest daughter Brooklyn was like, she's done. She's like, they are treating us already like we are trying to hijack or take over or like sell to the seven seas or something. And it was like almost like not worth it. We almost didn't want to get on because it was so stressful. They were such jerks.
I was so frustrated. I was just like, how can I even have fun after this like 3-hour hell that we just went through?
Yeah, it was nuts.
Really enjoy it. Or should we just get our money back and say we're done?
Yeah. And so we suckered it up, and we showed them their fine print, which was stupid. It made it sound like bring an ID or your birth certificate, but really kind of like it's weird
thing. Instead of required government ID and birth certificate, it was like kind of additionally you could bring a birth certificate is what it made it sound
like.
We
get it, we get on, and no big deal. But again, they let me through without nothing, so I'm like, well, that's weird. Stupid or liar. Okay, so we go through, and it's probably stupid on their part, but nonetheless we get on. It took a little minute to warm up, a little bit of a culture shock. Like just because it's so new and I'd never done this before.
Where to go?
We get on this boat and we like, the Robinson family, and we're like standing in the middle of this like bar club. Like, what do we do now? Like,
a DJ's rocking the music.
DJ like Alex is cranking it, man.
1,000 people, like shoulder to shoulder.
And it was wicked awesome, but I'm like, what do we do? Like, where's our rooms? Where's this? Because it was nuts. We went upstairs and downstairs, up elevators, carried our luggage up. We looked like that. We went to the other side of the ship, outside. We're like, I don't think this is it.
Well, and then there's areas that you go to the 12th floor, and then areas you can only go down to the 5th. And then we're on the 2nd at the back, and
it was weird.
Goodness.
Finally, we find out that your keys or your doors are next to your room. We find our rooms, we get settled, and then we started to relax a little bit. But it was also like unreasonably cold and rainy there because of the world-breaking rain that they were having
in LA.
Yeah, so not a lot of like sunbathing and stuff, but you guys, it was still a good time. We started to have fun. The boat was rocking. There's tons of water, like waves hitting and stuff. We got out there. When we found the ice cream machine
fight. Oh my goodness!
Found the ice cream machine. That was awesome. The boys were blown away that you could just walk up and get as much food as you want. So it started getting better. Started kind of leaning into it, but the kids were like, and Marissa's right. Like our kids are culture shocked, and a lot of it is because some of those like vulnerable things where you just let your hair down and just dance and all that. Like, that's not me. And I could tell our kids were like, they were culture shocked.
Yeah.
Like the cruise guy, Alex, is up there dancing with all these people. And some of them are drinking and some of them aren't. But like, it was just funny because our kids are like, I didn't realize like how sheltered they are.
Yeah.
Because like, it's hard for them to have a good time. And it's like, you're like, it's your fault. And I'm like, is it my fault?
Because you're not really good at like relaxing.
I don't know how to dance. That's one of the things.
You don't dance. And so it's like, that's just like, you look at people as being dumb that do that. And I think you've
wow.
kind of brushed off to people that, yeah, that's just stupid.
Savannah, our daughter's like, this is like a fever dream because like people were doing the locomotion and it was like, hilarious. It was funny.
But then
this little stamp of a swimming pool in the middle. Like, it was pretty funny. Anyway, so we start learning the ropes and that was fun. We got to, great dinners and stuff. A little underrated with the food. Everyone said, "Oh, the food's amazing." It was okay.
Yeah, the sit down dinners I think were pretty good.
The people there though, the people that serve us up.
Oh yeah,
salt of the earth, like amazing.
Yeah, the waiters, waitresses, our stateroom. I don't know what they are. People. Yeah.
Our guy's name was Hart. He was great. It made us like animals on the towels. It was great.
Yeah, they were phenomenal. Super nice.
So
super
we split up. We had the girls in one cabin, the boys in another, so we could have a boys' night and girls' night. So it was great. But then, the first day at sea, interesting, a little bit of cabin fever. I'm not really a cruise guy. I get cabin fever. I'm like, we got to get off this thing. Like, it starts freaking me out. Like, I'm like, wait a minute, we've been all around the ship. I've seen a lot of it. Like, I start getting kind of freaked out a little bit. I'm like, ooh. That same way when we went to Hawaii all those years ago, I felt like when you start at one position and drive all the way around the island in 3.5 hours and you're back where you started without turning around, like that was weird. Yeah. Nonetheless, we get to Ensenada, Mexico. The first time our kids have ever been in a situation like this. And oh my gosh, it was funny.
Yes, it was.
They've never been in a situation like this where they get accosted by people wanting them to buy their merchandise.
And Blue's just like, stay close to me. Just say no, thank you.
Talk about drug culture. Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah.
Everything's alcohol and drug related down there. Great people again.
Yeah, super nice.
Met some awesome folks down there. Mercy, you got a contact now with a guy who's going to make you some bolo ties or something. That kind of weird.
We're going to do some business over Instagram.
Yeah. Our kids got kind of culture shocked again when they have like a lot of sex and stuff. Like, there's a stuffed animal of a penis and kind of some funny things. And our kids are like, what is this? I'm like, just roll with it. Just, don't.
The super Viagra guy at every pharmacy with the giant boner.
Yeah. It's just like, you guys just laugh at it. And so it was kind of funny to watch them because like, they were like fish, like cats in water, man, fish out of water. They were just like, what is this?
Yeah.
Funny. They were all blown away by your ability to haggle prices with things.
Haggle like nobody's business.
Yeah, they were like, wow.
And I was like, I went in not well enough prepared. I needed to have all the bills. You have to have ones, fives, tens. You can't haggle if you only have 20s. And so, I didn't get all the deals I had hoped for.
Yeah, so that was a good, fun experience. Got some authentic food. It was awesome. Got back on the boat, came back, and then came shock number 2, which is now I need my birth certificate.
Yeah.
So out at sea, the last night we have the boyfriend going back to like scour through all of our files. I was like, this kid probably knows everything about us now. Yeah. Like, everything.
Well, he's looking, through our roll top desk, through baby books, through filing system. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I had that because I got this paper that says you need that when you get off too. So I'm like, well, they may have let me get on here, but now I won't be able to get off.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit of a headache. I got thinking, well, it's been nice knowing you guys in case I get stuck out here, Just a funny thing. It's a lot of inconveniences and strange situations that just caused some heartburn and stuff. Got off the boat. They just used my picture I took of the thing. There you go. The dude at customs was like, carry on. He was like, they need this guy. All right.
Names.
Yeah. So then we get on and to the lift to LAX because we got to catch our flight. And then we get the word delayed.
Yeah. First time.
I
think we got, by the end, delayed, I think 4 times. And then they moved it forward an hour and then back an hour. So by the time they were like, okay, now we're going to depart at, 5:50, I think.
Yeah.
And then I hear a lady saying, no, I was just over at the counter and they said for sure it's like 6:20 that these guys are lying to us as they're getting ready to board us.
Yeah.
We're going to get on the plane and just sit for another 30 minutes or more there. It's not leaving at 5:50. And I was like, oh my gosh, if we get on the plane and then sit there,
That's worse.
that's even worse. But then we did see the plane pull up. I did see our stewardesses get on the plane. So I was like, we're getting closer. But at this point, I think we were there almost
9 hours
at LAX.
LAX is crazy too, because their food is wicked expensive. Like you get this little like
most, but
little sandwich for like $20. I'm like, what the
Salt Lake
crap?
Airport now, and most airports they have, because of security, it's almost like a shopping mall.
Yeah.
So you have something to do. You can look at stores. You can eat, really nice or not so nice. You can kind of eat whatever. LA, well, at least for the Delta area, they had like 2 stores that was mainly like some t-shirts and candy bars.
Yeah.
And then restaurants that, with $20 sandwiches.
They had an Amazon store where you walk in, you put your credit card in, you walk in, you just grab a bunch of stuff and leave, and it just charges you. It's the weirdest thing. Like it felt like a crime. I'm like, this is strange.
Like, how does it know really what I got?
So we spent about $300 on food there for the 9 hours. It was a nightmare. And then, we get on, and right as we're getting on, this was like the final straw for me. We're getting on, and there's 6 of us, so it's taking some time. People want to get on the plane. Marissa has this little purse thing that literally like is paper thin.
It's like a body one to hold my passport and wallet. That's it. So,
and she's got her little, her bag to carry on. And the lady at the gate starts giving her shit because she's got 2 carry-ons now.
You have too many bags.
And she stops her right as she's going through and says, take that off and put it in your bag.
I'm like,
and so she stops and put it in her bag. But then that means that like me and the kids can't get on. And then the 2 people behind us couldn't get on. She starts chewing you out.
Well, first I'm like, okay, I'll put it in. She's like, you need to put it in the bag right here where I can see you. It has to be combined in that bag. So I stopped to put it in the bag. And then she's like, you're holding up the line.
Oh, you just do it right there. And I said, watch your mouth, lady. And she's like, mind your business. And that really pissed me off. I'm like, that's my wife. You shut your mouth. She's like, she said something cocky. And then I said, delta.com, what's your name? I'm going to complain about you. And then she turned her head and I got on, but that pissed me off too. Cause I'm like, you dummy, as our boys have a fanny pack.
All of our kids, 4 kids.
And a carry-on.
Yeah, fanny pack.
So then I'm like, there you go, stupid or liar. Which is it? Like, what was that all about, lady? So, we finally get home 9 hours late, and then we go to get out of the parking garage at the airport.
And we break the long-term ticket.
I break the machine. I put the card in. It gets stuck in there. I got to call the guy. Like it's a big to-do. We're there another 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
The machine. I'm like, we're there. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And we have to like reset. We can't even leave the airport now. Like we're up about 12 hours probably by the point. Oh my God.
So many things. We finally get home. And then I'm like, this is a great topic. A couple months ago, I got talking to somebody who says, I want to learn more about anger. And I totally forgot to do this, but this now we're going to talk about some anger management, some situational anger. There are like 8 types of anger, and I think we experience each one of them. And some of them are situational, some of them are provoked, some of them are just kind of because of. And it was funny because like so many things I could roll with. But the lady that said, at the cruise line that said, you guys will not be refunded. And I'm like, your freaking policies suck and your literature sucks. Your app sucks. Everything sucks here.
Yeah.
And you're blaming us, like make it more clear, right?
Yeah.
Like that lady was like, oh, I was ready to just rage on that one. And then the stupid gal at the end of the airport, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you guys have kept us here for 9 hours. The last thing you should be doing is provoking like an argument. And like, what is with you?
Not one apology. Finally, when we're on the plane, the pilot is the first one to apologize for our long wait times, but then also follows up with, we came in on our day off to get you guys home. I'm like, these guys are being fully inconvenienced and they're the first ones to apologize.
Yeah, man.
Not one thing from
Stupid
Delta yet.
Or liars, right? And I'm like, that's what it boils down to. But anger can be a very difficult emotion to navigate, specifically in recovery. I think it's one of these things where unmanaged anger really does, reflect on stress of a relationship, on a situation. It can cause unhappiness. It can cause problems.
Yeah.
I mean, just watching Brooklyn kind of break down after that lady was such a witch to us. She didn't want to get on. She's like, I want to go sleep on that scary haunted boat.
Yeah,
the Queen Mary.
The Queen Mary haunted.
So I don't want to get on this. And that broke my heart because I'm like, this was something that we planned on for months.
And now it's like ruined.
And then some dumb chick who's like, yeah, this is our policy. Instead of saying like, hey, I understand it's our policy. We're going to do everything we can to help you. It was, you're up a shit creek.
Are you guys wanting to just go home then? Do you want to just leave?
Yeah. Oh. So we look at this and we start thinking, okay, so how do you cope with this anger? Because there are several opportunities to get very angry. And it's like, well, it's coming from somewhere. You hear this a lot. Anger is a secondary emotion, right? Yep. What does that mean?
Well, so we were angry at customs. We were very angry. But what were we really? Okay. I was frustrated. I was sad. And I was embarrassed that I didn't read the literature right and understand it right. I had months to figure this out. And I was embarrassed that I screwed it up. So that's, to me, those were all some of the emotions behind my anger and frustration. And you know what I mean? And I was disappointed. We had prepared for months and months, and this was like this exciting time. Our kids' first plane ride, all of our family's first cruise. This was part of our Christmas gift to them.
First time going out of the country.
Yeah. I messed it up.
Some old hack is like, like throwing up a timeout sign.
So and the thing was real emotions behind it.
Yeah.
And it was, anger followed. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting too, because I'm like, and here I am sitting there thinking like, well, this guy let us through. So what is the deal?
Yeah. Like, why did the one guy let us through?
Yeah. And those kind of things are so interesting to me. So it was, and I felt the exact same side. I was like, I was mad at the situation, and I was like, oh, he's not going to make it. We're screwed. And I thought, well, if anything else, Marissa, you can get through, and the boys can get through. You go, I'll stay here with the kids. So we're trying to problem solve, and that wouldn't be good. But we start looking at these things, and if we can boil it down to what's really going on, we can solve these things a lot faster. So anger being a secondary emotion is kind of crucial when you're looking at the causality of it. That could have put a chip on us for the whole time. And don't get me wrong, there were times when our kids were like, this is weird, I don't like this. That again, it just sparked some anger because it started
with a negative situation, negative emotions. So it was harder to let little things, I think, slide.
As we're there, like looking like dumb old tourists on this boat, not knowing what we're doing. While everyone else seems to know what they're doing because they're already getting their drinks on. And we're standing there with our luggage in the middle, and we're like, then we get pissed because we're like, what's going on? Why isn't no one here to talk to us?
Well, and then we did not plan well for the weather. I had told the kids one warm outfit, like we wear it on the flight here and on the flight home because it'll be cold. We're going to Utah in the snow.
Gale force winds, Arctic conditions.
Yeah, we needed the winter. People were in puffer coats. Like we needed all of that.
Yeah.
So there were things that we couldn't do because it was freezing cold outside.
Yeah. And so there's all these opportunities to be real upset. And it got me thinking a little bit about when I was having this conversation about these different types of anger. So the first one I want to talk about is behavioral anger. And this is one of the most destructive types of anger because behavioral anger is typically expressed through physical issues, aggression, kind of involving breaking stuff, maybe striking someone. It's about feelings of being overwhelmed where you lash out in rage. And this happens a lot on flights and things, right? When people start getting tested and things. And it sucks because you know better than that, right? The best way to avoid that behavioral anger is to allow yourself to just be in the situation, take some deep breaths, and just think before making an impulse decision.
Yeah, because a lot of that behavioral anger is going to break down interpersonal relationships. And there's the consequences of relationships with others, not just with yourself. And so it has some real long-term consequences if you can't address it, well.
Yeah. And it's these kind of things too, that's like, it can happen at a moment's notice. These typically are reactions. Behavioral anger doesn't just mean that this person's got a cold heart. It just means that there's a flood. You're overwhelmed.
Well, and a lot of it, I've explained a little bit of this before. When you get angry, it's a response. And so the blood flow in your body, it goes to the fight or flight usually. So it will rush to your limbs so that you can fight or run away.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have your arms and legs to be able to do that. And when you get angry like that and the blood rushes to your extremities, it doesn't stay in your brain. It doesn't stay in your lungs and your core, necessary areas of your body. So you don't think straight, you don't think well, and you react quickly, impulsively, and you do things that you regret.
Yeah. And it's one of these things where you instantly know that you're wrong, but you typically double down because you want to justify or validate the action that was taking place.
Yeah.
And it never works that way. It never works that way. I've watched this a lot recently in football. I've seen a few things where I can't remember what teams were playing, but a trainer came out to help an individual who had gotten injured. And as he was trying to get through to get to his injured player, the opposite team gave him a shove. Like, why the freak are you shoving a trainer coming out to help the guy on the ground? And then when he turned around, the trainer turned around to face the guy that pushed him. He's like, what are you doing? Another one of the teammates come up and shoved him. Wow. And I'm like, you stupid idiots. Like, what do you guys think you're doing? That stuff pisses me off to no end, because I'm like, you dummies know better.
Well, and I'm thinking in those situations, they're probably so used to, they're still playing. They're in the middle of a game where you tackle and can't switch the brain to think.
Good point.
So maybe, you're in a new scenario now.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Good point. So behavioral anger is one of these things that you got to be really cautious of. The next one's chronic anger. And chronic anger is one of those types of anger that can lead to a relapse. You got to be very tuned in on a chronic anger behavior.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing kind of generalized resentment of other people, frustration with certain circumstances, maybe anger towards oneself, and left unmanaged, I think that it can really begin to kind of put you down that self-medicating mindset, because chronic anger is kind of like it's your fault. It's, the world against me. We see this a lot when people start getting stressed because of circumstances. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's housing, maybe it's, situational things where they're just like, this never works out for me, so F it.
Well, and it becomes just the only reaction. So as we've been talking about anger being a secondary reaction, when it becomes so habitual, that becomes the first reaction. And it makes it very difficult to be able to be self-aware, to identify what are the other emotions, because it's just anger.
Yeah.
The other real issue with chronic anger is it's like driving a car. Like, you have a car and you want to race it. Okay. You rev that engine, you push the pedal, and you just floor it. Okay. If you floor a car every single day, all the time it's being used, how fast are you going to ruin that engine?
Oh yeah. Quick.
You're going to wear it out. And that's what it does. It ruins your body physically.
Yeah.
It ruins so many issues, your high blood pressure and heart disease and so many other issues. If you have that chronic anger happening over and over, it's like, just flooding your body every day. It's too extreme.
Absolutely. It can lead to like deep depression. And you've heard this in the 12-step community that it kind of refers back to resentments as the number one offender. That's what chronic anger is. It destroys more people in recovery than you might truly understand, because it's just that practice of not forgiving anything or anyone or oneself. And so to manage that, you've got to do a lot of talk therapy. You've got to do a lot of release. You've got to stop being so critical with yourself and start finding the source of what truly hurts.
Yeah. You have to slow down and really go backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. So judgmental anger is another form that's kind of an interesting one too. That's that anger that's caused by you're feeling more morally superior than someone else, right? So you're just like, it's kind of like what can happen if you're not careful with, like, we're on this cruise or we're in Disneyland and we're like, we're better than all of you people. And so everything they do just kind of makes you angry, because like, oh, you're over there having fun or dancing because you're drunk or you're doing these things, right?
Alienating
people.
Yourself.
We see this a lot with family systems who might have an individual in their family who struggles a little bit. And so they use judgmental anger to justify their feelings. It's like, maybe a loved one has an addiction. And so like, you're so angry at them that you start utilizing like bizarre kind of like reinforcing tools, like limiting what they can do, what they can be a part of the family, or things they can do with their children and things.
And a lot of times in religion, this comes into play when there's just like this over reaction of righteousness. Like, I am so much holier than other people because I make better choices, because I go to church, or whatever else, because I'm closer to the Lord or whatever, and not realizing
like, what are you thinking?
that's when you look at the Christianity side and being judgmental, is that really being Christ-like?
I think we see this a lot right now with specifically with that mindset. You see a lot of people that are Christian, so to speak, and they do some wacky things, and it's a lot of judgmental anger. It's triggered by the perceived shortcoming of someone else.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and it breaks my heart when I hear so many people talk bad about really kind of any religion, because that's someone's belief. And so it's like, I get it, but all in the same breath, I'm like, you guys, watch out, because your belief isn't the only belief. No belief is right or wrong. It just is. And that's kind of hard to swallow sometimes.
And being able to just respect someone else's beliefs, even when they're different than yours, it is difficult, but it's so necessary to have good, healthy relationships.
Absolutely. So be cautious with that. And if you find yourself in that situation, it's hard to let others in. And maybe that's, to a certain degree, you're afraid of getting hurt again. So you use that to justify some of those actions. This is my favorite, and one that I use quite frequently. It's the passive aggressive anger.
Oh yes.
This is one of my favorite go-tos, because I'll just destroy you. And I'm very mindful of this, and it is still a weak point for me. It's kind of what I was doing with the gal at the port. Yeah. And with the lady at the gate with you. Passive aggressive anger can severely strain relationships. It's characterized by the avoidance of confrontation expressed through sarcasm, or like deficits, things that kind of like you see a weakness in them, right? Yeah. And it can also be characterized by like procrastination at working, by mocking others, lying, avoidance, all those kind of things. And my passive aggressive anger really does kind of lean towards that assertive kind of like, I will make you feel the weight of what you're trying to push on me. And so when I called that lady out, when I'm like, Delta.com, what's your name? That's a passive remark to say, I'm going to report you because you're being a jerk. Instead of just saying, lady, I'm sorry, there's a lot going on, or not saying anything at all. Right. But it made me mad when she's cocked off to you, because I'm like, you don't talk to my wife that way. But, so passive aggressive anger can really be damaging, because you're the only one that sees like the perspective that way. Right.
And it's really sneaky. And so it really damages relationships, because you won't just come out and say something. A lot of people will do this side biting, like, I'm mad at them for this and I don't want to say that, so I'm going to attack them at the side with something else, or something I also see as a shortcoming, and all of a sudden they jump back to that judgmental anger, and they do these side attacks, not wanting to address the situation head on, and that makes other people feel very unsafe. That makes it really difficult to trust someone else in a relationship, because you don't know, if you're the person being attacked, you don't know where they're going to attack next and where it's coming from, and often can create some PTSD. Absolutely.
This next one is really important. It's usually the one that is most actively used, and it's called retaliatory anger, right? So retaliatory anger is one of the most common types of anger. It's that mindset of getting back at someone who's done you wrong. And this can be often rationalized by, your willingness or desire to want to hurt someone else, that a situation can escalate to. Like, I want to hurt this person for what they put me through. I want to get even. Yeah. I had a friend once that did this. It was the dumbest thing. Like, his retaliatory anger resulted in him going out and like puncturing his girlfriend's tires. And I remember him popping out and running over there and poking the tire. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what do you think is going to happen? She's going to run out and see what you've done and be like, oh my gosh, I was completely wrong. I love you after all. I'll never quite understand what the crap he was. And it was easy to figure out it was him. I mean, it was like obvious. But I'm like, you're the dumbest.
People think that action is going to help them relieve that anger. It's going to make them feel better. I don't think they look, because again, it's that fight or flight. They're not thinking, they're not using their brain really well, doing rationalizing of thinking of the long-term consequences of it. It's just, I need to feel better right here, right now. And the only way to do it is to get back at you, because then I'll feel like we're even when something became uneven.
And it doesn't ever work that way. This is where you start seeing crimes of passion, things of like, really pushing limits with like violence, an eye for an eye, so to speak. And that is absolutely not right. And I don't think anything justifies behavior that causes harm to someone, someone's property or self. And so the retaliatory anger has got to be put into check very quick. So if you're in a situation where a loved one has this,
Yeah.
it's get help quick,
Yeah.
because these are the things that like escalate to the point of like being on a true crime show. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure.
So retaliatory anger, I see this a lot in relationships where there'll be infidelity. And so the spouse will go out and find a certain someone to retaliate and cheat on, as if two wrongs make a right.
Yeah.
I've never seen it be like, well, you've cheated on me, I've cheated on you. So we're, hey, we're back to
We're
good.
even. So now we can stay together.
Never seen it. The self-abusing anger is one that you need to be mindful of too, because this is the most dangerous kind of anger.
Yeah.
This often threatens people in sobriety because it kind of results and kind of peaks itself from feelings of being unhappy, worthless, feelings of being worthless, maybe shame-based,
guilt,
and it manifests through negative self-talk, self-harm, and again, substance abuse, eating disorders, things you do internally to hurt yourself.
Like I'm a bad person, so I need to punish myself. And I think oftentimes this happens subconsciously. I don't think people always recognize it. Sometimes I think they do. Or I don't want to hurt someone else, so I'm going to hurt. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm at the end, I'm going to hurt myself so that I'll feel better. And really, you're just harming yourself over and over repeatedly, specifically self-harm or relapse after relapse. I'm a bad person. I'm awful. I'm no good. I'm a disappointment. So I'll prove it to myself again and again.
I've read some things about self-abusive anger that typically results in suicide, where there'll be a situation that happens and the anger will be so intense they put themselves in that position where they may be calling for help, but it ends up pushing them past that limit.
Yeah.
So this is a very scary point of anger. Things to look for are those kind of self-defeating behaviors, the things that they do. And there's a difference between a relationship that uses some passive anger by saying, if you don't do this, I'm going to hurt myself, versus the ones who hurt themselves because they feel as though they've done something that validates that level of harm.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And so, all these perspectives, listeners, you come with a degree of reaching out for help, because sometimes, if you're in a judgmental anger mindset, it can turn into a retaliatory anger mindset fairly quick. So these aren't just compartmentalized into very specific behaviors.
Yeah. You can go through all of them.
Now, here's the deal. Here's the one thing I don't want you to think, that all anger is bad anger, because there is absolutely positive anger, and it's called assertive anger.
Yep.
And assertive anger is kind of a constructive type, which sounds kind of silly, right?
Yeah.
But really what it does, it's a way to cope with other types of anger.
Yeah. Because you get the energy, you get that, all of a sudden, the blood rushing, and then how do you react appropriately?
Yeah. You use those feelings of frustration, of disappointment, of rage to create something positive. So it's kind of funny talking about this now, because as all of it came to a head, everything the weekend presented to itself, all that crazy stuff, on the way home, we started to talk about all the funny things that we got put into that we had successfully completed.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a funny thing where the kids were like, we're never going to do this again. And blah, 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 blah. It's like when you first run a marathon, I'm never going to run a marathon again. And after you let things settle. And I kept telling the kids this, I'm like, a lot of this stuff is crazy, and it's pissing us off because it's all new. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you noticed this, but as we were driving and getting further away from the airport, closer to home, we started talking about the funny things.
Well, and the kids just started looking at it with a different perspective of, oh, wasn't that funny that we looked so lost and we were so confused? And, instead of all of those embarrassment, because we'd already kind of worked through some of that and we could see it in a different light, and being able to talk about it with each other made it, let's look at something that's a little happier about it.
Even the conversation I had with that lady at the gate, because all the kids heard me. At the end, I was kind of talking to them about the disrespect, and I don't like people disrespecting you. And it was kind of like they got to see that I'm going to stick up for their mother, for my wife. And so to a certain degree, I wish I would have handled that better. But at the same time, it was also a learning experience that says, you need someone out there to be able to be in your corner.
Yeah.
And so even our kids, they know that. I mean, they know that from when they used to be, cocky towards you, and I'd say, hey, you be careful.
Yeah.
That may be your mom, but that's my wife. And they kind of, oh,
Yeah.
it's why when our girls are being complete jerks to the boys, they just kind of, like, okay, like I want this to stop, but I'm not going to retaliate against them because we don't do that, guys.
Well, and again, it's like you're saying is, yeah, you're absolutely okay to say, hey, don't disrespect my wife and address the issue. Like that's not an appropriate way to do it. Why don't you ask differently, whatever it is, so that you're not attacking and doing something passive aggressive or equaling, but it's kind of the straight talk. When you talk about all of your communication styles, we've talked about many times, it's a straight talk. This is what it is, and this is what's happening.
Yeah.
It's going to sometimes come with some energy and emotion, but it has a cutoff.
Yeah. So it's a sort of anger, rather than confronting the issue, like head on, internalize the anger, start kind of to verbalize kind of like an outcome, instead of insults, look at what you could do to create a better path of change and growth, be able to realize it, analyze it, like accept it, bring it on board. Like, yeah, this situation pissed me off. But it doesn't have to continue to fester inside.
Yeah.
It's the best way to channel your feelings without hurting yourself or others, by turning it into action. It's what we've done with Team Addict to Athlete. When we started seeing like the positions of people passing away, we turned that anger into assertive anger by creating this program, by creating outlets, by creating dialogue, by bringing people to the program. So there's a lot that can be done. I wanted to share that with you all today, just because it was kind of a real test in point of like our thresholds, right? And
our anger management.
Yeah. And trust me, man, there were so many things. I mean, even just uncomfortable situations, with the kids in the cabins, and you get too many kids locked up like that for too long, and you wake them up too early and they get aggressive and mad, and you got
motion sickness, and
there's so many things competing, but like at the end of the day, it's like relationships before rules. Like we are here to kind of experience all this, and no matter what,
to cultivate the relationship rather than to damage and attack it.
Yeah. Well, I watched the systems got hot in your cabin with the girls, and I noticed as we were leaving, and it was just a chaotic thing. By the time they were there 9 hours later, all that stuff in that morning, the chaos was gone. And I watched Brooklyn walk with you. And inquire about you. You were heartbroken because there was a few things that just didn't feel right, and it all kind of just worked out, because that's what families do. We experience the hard stuff, we call it out, we certainly don't sweep it under the rug, and we grow from it. Next time we'll know that your keys are in the cabin. We'll know that you need to bring your birth certificate. We get all this stuff now. But
this is a learning experience rather than something to just be frustrated and angry with all the time.
I think sometimes we don't realize that the stuff we do is really challenging. Sometimes think about coming to a meeting for the first time, or even entering a position of going into a recovery program. It's going to be scary because you don't know. And when we don't know, we guess, and we guess wrong, and then we feel dumb, and then that makes us angry.
Yeah.
Right.
And oftentimes the people welcoming you don't explain things well. They're not very clear. And so being aware and learning that self-awareness and asking the questions, find somebody that is helpful so that you won't feel so out of place, and you can work it out a little bit better.
Absolutely. So I hope that helps. You get to learn something from our follies and missteps, but you know what? It was a great experience. I wouldn't have changed it for the world. Everything happened the way it did for a very specific reason. And we wanted to share that with you, just to kind of help maybe give some understanding when you bump into someone that might be a little angry, figure out why, and then certainly don't join them. Right.
For sure.
But nonetheless, thank you guys for tuning in today. This will be a podcast that will be posted tomorrow. We were a little bit delayed because of our trip, but the new Addict to Athlete podcast is up right now. Please go listen to that. Sober Paul, what a great guy out there in New York doing some amazing things. But yeah, jump in with this. If you got questions, you know how to get a hold of us, addicttoathlete.org. All of our contact information is there. Jump into our meetings. We got lots of meetings. Our website has our whole schedule for all of our meetings throughout Utah. It's all there, right?
Yep.
Real quick, before we shut this one down, we should probably thank our Patreon subscribers too.
Yes, we should.
Our Patreon subscribers help us push this podcast out further, and we wouldn't be able to do it without their support. If you'd like to become a Patreon subscriber, jump on patreon.com/addictoathlete. Pick a tier that works for you. You know, we're getting all your shirts out, and I hope some of you guys have received them. I've seen some of the posts. You guys have received many of them. So if you haven't, keep an eye on your mailbox because it's coming.
So we'll start at the top down this time. We'd like to thank our champion level subscribers. That is the Robinson family and Ron and D. Loesch.
Oh, thank you too.
Thank you guys. Our pro level, Andrew Baird and Gary Thurston.
Absolutely.
Our rookies, Sione and Mary Inuk, Sherry Polson, Earl Dyer, and Wendell Wood.
All
Thank
great
you,
people there.
rookies.
Holy cow, love
Yes.
them all.
And our super fans, Karen Hardy, Steve Riggs, Tracy Whitby, Jerem living in Brazil, Thurston,
That guy.
Tara Butson, Holly Davies, Scott Foster, Brett Frew, Chris Williams, Sensei KP Brown, Patrick Forsyth, and a new patron, Brock Ellerman.
Yeah, thank you, Brock. I gotta give Brock some stuff. He's wanting some of our communication stuff, and I've been on vacation. I'm like, crap, I gotta send that to him. So Brock, it's coming. Don't give up hope, brother. For all you that want to be part of this, thank you so much. Again, patreon.com/addictoathlete. $2 a month gives you all of our bonus content. And we just posted one last week, so go check that out. Until next time, athletes, please continue to turn that mess into a message. I will exit stage left.
Okay.